Welcome to the Tuning In podcast, where we talk alignment, intuition, and our internal guidance system. We cover woo-woo topics in an approachable and practical way. I'm your host, Dana Evans of alignful.com. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Tuning In podcast. So I have a really interesting topic to talk to you about today, work and worth. However, before I get into that, let me give you a little update. We are, from a podcast perspective, on week 3 of the great Sloth Experiment, which was something my inner voice dubbed the name of as a quarter for me to slow down, chill out, and practice resting over working. And this past week, I actually took a full week off. And it was Thanksgiving week here in the US. So I decided to just give myself the whole week as a vacation. And it's very interesting to take a vacation when you're not going anywhere. But a lot of us aren't going anywhere right now. And I needed to take a stand and say, okay, I'm taking a vacation and I'm not going anywhere. And I'm just going to be home. And let me tell you, it was really weird. And it was also so amazing and so fun because I was home. I could just hang out. I watched a million movies and TV shows. And I read quite a few books. I am reading The Law of Innocence. I just finished that one by Michael Conley. And that is actually the 6th book of the Lincoln Lawyer series. And then I started the 5th book as well. And then I just started reading Ruth Ware. She's a psychological thriller writer. Her new book called One by One. And I'm also reading A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. All of these are really enjoyable for me. Then I am listening to a few audiobooks. I am listening to Anxious People, which is really fun and really interesting. I am also listening to Matthew McConaughey's new book called Green Lights. And it's just really fun to have space to just hang out and catch up on things and just enjoy. I organized my closet again and my socks and my clothing, and it was really simple. But what happened was yesterday was Sunday, which meant my official week off was over, even though I don't have a ton of things going on anyway. And I started to feel horrible. And I realized that I wasn't ready to fully go back to it, which isn't the point of this experiment anyway, right? I'm not going back to it at all this year, but it was just this weird fight that started showing up, and I noticed it in my chest, and I was feeling anxious and uneasy, and I went to go to sleep, and I was having all these worried and fearful thoughts, and like I messed up and I shouldn't have done this, and am I messing up my entire life? Like all of this stuff was going on. And then that was Sunday. I was feeling that way. I felt it a little bit on Saturday, and Monday, that's today, I woke up with a massive cloud over my head. I felt heavy. I felt truthfully kind of depressed, sad, exhausted, even though I had a wonderful weekend and have slept plenty. And I didn't know what was going on. And I felt this many times over this experiment, but to have it like so many days in a row, and it was so intense that I started to think, what am I doing? Right? What am I doing? I am a happy person. What is going on? Why is this happening? Like, why do I feel this way? What am I doing with my life? And this feeling continued on, and I had an inner voice session, as I'm doing bi-weekly, every other week, inner voice sessions with my coach, Nicole Perkins. And I had one scheduled today, and I was so close to canceling it because I felt so horrible. But what do we know about coaching? What do we know about this work? Is that, of course, when you feel the worst is when you need it the most. So I do the session with her, and boy, did I release some emotional beanbags. I was so exhausted going into that session. There is so much fight in my mind that it was completely affecting me. And almost immediately, once I kind of settled into the session, I just cried. And my inner voice was saying, she's so tired. The mind is so tired. You're doing nothing and still fighting. You're more tired than if you were doing a lot of things, because the mind is comfortable with doing things. What the mind is not comfortable with is not doing. And what I realized during the session is what this experiment is actually about for me, which I did not know going into it, mind you. This is about work and worth. This is about the fact that I have been working since I was 12 years old, and I would babysit 3 days a week. I remember I made $120 a week. I babysat for 8 hours a day, 3 days a week for this couple down the street for their 2 kids all summer long. And then I did that for 2 years. That was my brother's job before that. And then I, at 14, became a busgirl at the country club near me, which didn't technically hire people till you were 15, but I got in at 14. And then I became a cart girl at that same country club. And then I went to do waitressing jobs in high school, and I worked all through college. I worked at a spa right on my college campus, a really fancy spa, like an urban fitness center. It's like an urban country club, actually. So it's like a spa and fitness center. Like Kate Hudson would go there, and like the Boston Celtics worked out there. Anyway, random story. I've always worked, and I've always earned my own way. And this is the first time that that's not happening right now, at least not in the way that I would prefer it, right? I make money, but not the amount that I'd want to be making, and not contributing the amount I would want to be contributing to my household. And what I realize is I have so much of my identity tied up in my ability to work and earn money on my own. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's a great trait to have, but it has been affecting me. And I'm now realizing why this experiment has been unfolding. And it's because I need to untangle my worth as a human from my work and my doing, from the mind. And I had a similar realization last week with my other coach, Lauren Armstrong. I sent her a message. I said, I'm realizing that maybe part of this experiment is not to apply everything I do to my business, because everything I always do, I apply to my business. Like, I'm in this space which it's fine, but like, I'm like, how will this help my business? How will this help me get clients? How will this help improve my skills so I can better help my clients? How will this apply to my business? That is always the question. That's all I ever care about. And I messaged my coach. I was like, I'm realizing that maybe this experiment is for me to detach a little bit from my business and start operating and just living my life. And what if, and then of course my mind is like, and what if living my personal life is exactly what's going to help my business? But truly, I think that's what's happening, is by detaching myself from my business, right? Which is a huge thing for me, to detach from my business and detach from Instagram. I'm still not on Instagram right now. Like, I'll peek on there, every couple of days, but I am not spending time on Instagram. I'm not posting to Instagram. And I am living my life without the need to share it. So this is super interesting. So I had that realization of like, okay, maybe this is more about me like getting my life back to being my own, and really figuring out and like looking at, what does that mean to me? And who am I when I'm not posting to Instagram with an angle? Like, who am I when I'm not checking my DMs? Who am I when I'm not trying to check my emails every day? Who am I when I'm not always trying to put the angle toward, how does this apply to my business? And then today, it all came together of like, yeah, who are you, Dana, when you don't attach your worth to your work? This is such a potent question for all of us to ask. Who am I without X, Y, or Z? Who am I if I don't identify myself as an employee or a business owner or a mother or a wife? What do you highly identify as? And who are you without that? And it doesn't mean we're taking that away from you, but can we start to untangle those identities? Because what I see it in my clients, and I, of course, see it in myself, and now I get why I'm even doing this experiment, is that we identify as those roles, and then that is how we get our value and validation as a human. So, for example, if I'm not busy working, then I'm not valuable, or I can't earn money. However, this past 2 months, I have brought in more money by doing nothing than most of the year. I'm not actively working, but money is showing up in a few different ways. One was like I was getting a referral bonus from someone. One, I got some unexpected money from my grandmother. One, I got someone randomly book a session with me. Like, weird things are showing up. I got like a random refund. So money is appearing without my effort. And I am not working, and I'm learning that I am still a good human being, right? Just because I'm not busying myself all day, it doesn't mean I'm a bad person. And I know it sounds silly when you say that out loud, but this is what's happening beneath the surface. What came out in my session today was unfreaking believable. The depth of which my mind is fighting me to hold on to this identity is unbelievable. It is blocking me. It is fighting me. It is kicking and screaming and throwing a temper tantrum and saying, we cannot lose this identity because then we are nothing. And my inner voice is saying, but when you let go of this identity, imagine who will emerge. Imagine who you are when it's not dictated by what you do or how much you do. Imagine what can shine through when you're not doing to prove your value. And it's hard to explain because I feel like we talk about this a lot, like work and worth. Like, that is a conversation, at least in the world that I am a part of. Like, conceptually, I get it. But I didn't get the depth of which this has affected me. Like I said, I've been working since I was 12. And all of a sudden, I'm taking that away from my mind. Like, even if I wasn't working to earn money, like this year, I was working a lot and doing a lot of different things and always planning and strategizing and thinking and figuring and all that stuff. Like, I was always doing a ton of things. And even like doing courses, like those were coursework, right? Always doing a ton of things that felt purposeful. And it's rare that I've had much time ever where I don't. And so I took that away from myself. And now I'm left with the rubble. I'm left with the explosion of the mind. There was so much crying. And even like after I released so much, I was like crying and breathing and tingling. Oh my God, my body was like vibrating. Toward the end, she asked me again. She said, okay, inner voice, so you said she's not quite ready to stop the rest. So when will she be ready? And right again bubbled up a big wave of tears and resistance. Just the idea of not stopping this experiment of rest freaked my mind out. But here's the crazy thing. My mind wanted this. This is what my inner voice said. My inner voice was like, sorry, you asked for this. You didn't know the full ramifications of it, but you asked for it and we're going forward and you can't go back anymore. Even my mind knows it can't go back, but it is freaking out because not only has it lost the identity of the work, but it's also losing the identity of being happy. I don't know if anyone can relate to this. I'm sure some of you can. Because I definitely, and those of you who know me, like I definitely hold an identity of being happy, being joyful, being, peppy. I've always identified myself as that and enthusiastic. But lately, that's not here. I feel kind of down, right? I'm feeling a ton of resistance. I'm feeling exhausted. I'm feeling so many different emotions. And when I do feel happy or joyful, it doesn't last that long. And so not only am I losing the work identity, but I'm losing this one as well. And oh my God, I didn't know that was happening. I didn't know that was part of the resistance for my mind. But the ego, the mind, it chooses identities and then it fights to keep them forever. But what my inner voice said today, it was like, it is okay. It is okay to go through some pain. It is okay to feel low. It is okay. It is part of this process. You are unlearning. In fact, my inner voice said, for now, the learning from the mind has commenced. Put a pause on the mind-based learning. It is time to unlearn what you've been taught so you can relearn who you truly are. Oh, right? Oh my God. Thank you, inner voice. Enough with that. So I identified as being happy. I've talked about this on quite a few episodes. Like, I haven't been very happy lately, like from that superficial standpoint, but there's so much more there. I'm going so much deeper and uncovering the parts of me that need to be seen and heard and experienced. And you can't do that when you're masking everything with a layer of happiness. I would say my happiness was genuine. I'm not discounting that. Like I usually felt quite easygoing and happy. But now I'm taking things deeper and I am unearthing what needs to be expressed and seen and experienced so that I can let it go, so that I can move past that and back to myself. And I do know at my core, at my essence, I am a joyful, happy person. And my inner voice has that. My inner voice is very silly and light and happy. But that doesn't mean that's all I am. And it doesn't mean I always have to be that way. So that's another great question for you is like, what emotional identity do I hold on to? And what happens when that starts to slip away? What I started thinking yesterday and today, I was like, something is wrong. This isn't working because I am not feeling happy and I feel like I'm getting worse and I feel like I'm free falling. I feel like I just jumped off a cliff and I can no longer go back to the edge that felt really safe, right? The old way. And I also have not been caught. And so I am just flailing and falling through the air and like, what the bleep have I done? What am I doing? Who do I think I am? Like, what? This is ridiculous. What am I embarking on? I didn't even know what I was embarking on. And I'm not happy anymore. Like, I'm a little moody. I'm feeling down. Like, I'm exhausted. Like, what am I doing? And then my inner voice says, this is what you wanted, Dana. This is what you asked for. This is what you unknowingly signed up for. And so here I am, another week under my belt, another emotional roller coaster, another deep experience of release and so much gratitude for the process. I could not have said that this morning. I was going to try to force this podcast in this morning, and I was like, I can't do it. And then after my inner voice session, I was like, I can do it. My inner voice also said that just because I'm resting, it doesn't mean I don't create, but to wait for the inspiration, which we talked about a lot last week, right? Just wait. In fact, I was journaling the other day, and then out came the outline for the Insight one-to-one coaching program that I want to offer in January or February. And it was the coolest thing because I didn't realize this is what it was going to be. It's going to be inner voice work and regular mind-based coaching, along with energy work. Oh my gosh, I'm getting Reiki attuned and I'm getting certified to be a hypnotherapist. So there's some really cool other things that are going on, but it's going to be me working with these things with you and then me working with your inner voice to determine what's right for you. Oh my God, I'm giddy excited about it. But I didn't figure this out. I didn't think it through. It came to me. And there's so much more to it. It's like the culmination of all that I've experienced, and I get to bring that to my clients. But that didn't come from effort. This podcast right now is not coming from effort or even planning, to be honest. It's coming from inspiration. So my inner voice reminded my mind that just because you're not working all the time just to do it, it doesn't mean that you won't be inspired to create. And just because you're inspired to create, it doesn't mean you're better or worse, because we are no longer tying your worth to your work. And I don't know, I'm still unraveling this in my mind because it's not done. Even this session, like I felt the intensity of the emotions and they were holding on in my right pinky and ring finger all the way down into my right palm and into my right thumb. They were like frozen. My fingers were frozen and my mouth was kind of frozen, like in a whistle blowing shape. And then my left palm and my right knee. Those are all the areas where my body, my mind is still fighting to hold on to work and worth. It's still fighting for the old way. It's still grasping in the air as I'm free falling and saying, please take me back. Anything. I just don't want to keep falling because I don't know how to do this. And then my inner voice is gently saying, trust us. Enjoy the fall. Enjoy the ride. Ride the waves. Experience all that there is. And trust that there is so much more. And that is the journey. So thank you once again, as always, for tuning in. And I will catch you on next week's episode. I will give you another debrief of the Sloth Experiment on the fly processing and sharing everything that I'm going through and knowing that I'm going through this first so that I can guide you through it as well in an easier and more efficient way. Trust me. But I appreciate each and every one of you. I am just so grateful for all of this. It's overwhelming. I could cry again with the gratitude, but thank you for being here on this journey with me. And I will catch you next time on the Tuning In podcast. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Tuning In podcast. As always, if this would resonate with anyone you know, please share the episode. You can follow along with my journey on Instagram at Dana_Evans, or find me on my website at alignful.com.